Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this week's stream. It is Tuesday once again, and we are back at you with another Colony live stream. This week, we've got myself, Isaac, of course, and we've got Holly, and we have Perp here doing our art today. Perp, you want to run us through what we're working on artistically today?
Yeah. I'm working to get some of the previous images that were in, or the images in previous streams up to like past the finish line right now.
Yeah. And how are you guys feeling today?
Feeling alright.
It's been a rough week for me, but I'm glad that we're working on colony stuff. How about you, Perp? How you doing?
Doing all right. My sleep schedule's been all kind of wacky.
Noticed. Well, hopefully I can get it sorted out soon. I hope that you're at least getting the rest that you need. Sorry if I'm a little low energy today. It's just been, I don't know, my brain's been all over the place.
We all had those days.
Yeah. Excuse me. The grass wiggling in the wind.
Ooh.
Ooh. Feel like it's just gonna be a chill day.
Oh, probably.
I would make a chill guy joke, but then I remember I don't like that meme.
Yeah, that meme's kind of awful, actually.
It's corporate. It's very corporate.
It's so corporate. We do not approve of shilling memes unless they are shilling Hexahedron Studios or other small-time creators. Feels good feeling like we're just around the bend on being able to release the first part of the Song of Origins. We're very close.
Yeah, we're locking in editing for movement 1. We've got a rough cut started for movement 2. Movement 3 won't be too far behind. That is
Yep.
a really good feeling.
Yeah. Been years in the making at this point. Unintentionally, but it's the past few years have just been unfathomably rough.
But we're here.
But we're here, still kicking, still making. Just gotta never stop making things. That's when you lose your humanity we were meant to make. I just noticed that if I put my Cheeto bag just a little too close to the microphone, it starts I start getting a slight background feed.
Uh-oh.
Oh yeah, talk about ASMR.
Oh no. I remember there's a guy called Shank Mods who makes a lot of Wii portables, and he also made he went on this insane quest to make a handheld portable uh, version of the Virtual Boy, and using real Virtual Boy hardware. That was the important thing. It couldn't be an emulator. It had to be a real Virtual Boy. And in the opening to that video, he's like showing how being close to his electrical sockets was throwing off, like not even touching them, just being in close proximity to them was throwing off the data that he was trying to read for his voltage calibrations.
No.
And he accidentally fried a miniature screen. I learned some really interesting facts about the way that the Virtual Boy screens work from that video too. It's kind of cool. Basically, they have each eye gets a mirror, and then you get these oscillating lasers, or LEDs, really what they are. That well, and it's not that the lasers or the lights themselves oscillate. It's that they're on a slight vibrational motor control that pushes the light back and forth across the mirror. And then the LEDs light up at specific frames to give the illusion of the mirror projecting a full screen onto one of your eyeballs, and that's how it creates the 3D effect.
That's really clever, but also no wonder it was headache-inducing.
Oh yeah. Oh, actually, you know what? I think I might have gotten that wrong. It wasn't the LEDs that were on the motor mounts. It was the mirrors themselves on the motor mounts, which even worse.
That makes more sense, I think.
Yeah. But yeah.
Couldn't help that they also chose bright red.
Yeah, for real. But the interesting thing that he discovered while he was doing this mod to turn it into a handheld was that the motherboard itself required to know if that what was it? It needed a feedback confirmation from the motors to make sure that they were working, otherwise it will not display the gameplay. So if one of your motors was broken in your headset, you were just SOL. And the somebody in the modding community for Virtual Boys, which I'm astounded even exists to begin with, somebody figured out they just like a plug-in, like a really cheap circuit board, like a PCB board, very 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 cheap, that you just plug into one of the basically one of the cables that feeds to the mirror sensors, and then it cheats the whole thing, and then you can bypass that confirmation. And so he used one of those in his design, and it was really cool. That whole video is really fascinating look into the Virtual Boy and how it works, and there's people designing very niche Virtual Boy homebrew games. It's kind of cool.
Oh yeah, aren't those also playable via 3DS Umber now? So that's kind of cool.
Could be. I haven't looked that far into it, but that would be cool.
Okay. I know someone got some kind of proof of concept hack going. Oh, who did we get?
That would be really cool if they were to do that, so that way it can interpret both of the eyeballs to match onto the parallax screen on the 3DS.
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever that screen is called. I can't remember what it's called. But that special 3D screen. That was something that Shank talked about, that he wanted to potentially include, but he admitted that his programming skills were not up to snuff to really tackle that.
Hello, walking side quest detector. How are you doing today?
Oh, hey, Calum.
It's a really wild way of spelling that.
That's my boy. I played D&D with that guy. What's Mark working on? You mean Perp? What?
Yeah, we have Perp today.
We have Perp. And Mark, do you mean Matt? My guy. Wrong in 3 different ways. Incredible.
Like, wrong in like 8 languages.
Congrats, you're stupid in 4 languages. Well, Perp, you want to describe what you're working on?
I'm drawing grass.
This is true.
That factually correct. Working on Song of Origin video stuff, just trying to get assets finished so we can get it all edited together. It's kind of like very light animatic stuff, basically. We're not really like, we don't have very like robust animation aspects to it, but there are things that move. There's elements within the scene that change as the storytelling goes on, and so it's just layers and layers and layers on the same art pieces. At the very least, like, so I will say this. I feel bad because Perp's been wanting to draw bug stuff, but we've been needing to get this video, this early part of uh, the like scriptural origin story out. They're you know Genesis effectively, and it's a lot of much more esoteric, eldritch kind of stuff than it is bugs. And I know Perp's been wanting to draw bugs more than this stuff lately, but we're almost there. There's this little last push, and then you can get to bugs.
Biogs.
Biogs. Rich world needs a solid, understandable foundation. Honestly, you're doing better than most game worlds with these animatics. Things like Battletech lore are still impenetrable to most. Grand idea. I appreciate that. I have not personally gotten into Battletech lore, so I can't attest to that. I know there's a lot of lore out there, like, and personally, I think like even like this lore is not even super esoteric in comparison to uh, a lot of other real world cultures, lores, and but I do feel like this is a much easier story to kind of physically express than a lot of origin and like Genesis stories. Um, and I kind of wanted to follow along with that line of thinking of fallible gods that Greek and Norse mythology often follow through with. And, you know, other cultures certainly, but we see a lot of those kinds of stories in very prevalently in those two, especially. And I don't include Roman because Roman and Greek are the same thing.
Very much the let me copy your homework. I'll change a couple things approach.
I can't believe Heracles and Hercules are just literally the same guy. Hardly even changed the name.
Yeah, silly Romans. That's a beetle.
Which came first, the god or the beetle? Trick question. God made all beetles.
Yeah, all of them. And their submarines, too.
Mm-hmm. All 4 beetles. You know, like I know I've brought this up before, but 1 in every 4 species, like living things on the planet, are beetles, and which makes me really question like whether it was John, Paul, Ringo, or George that were, you know, which one was the bug. I'm voting Ringo. Just on his name alone. It's a very beetle name. Oh no, he's spinning the world around.
I'm the god of this realm.
Spin!
What does the word spin start with? NS.
The true facts. De-esser. I'm still cackling over that one. It's such a stupid joke, but it caught me so off guard. I really think scientists getting to name new species is the only reason we know there's like 16,000 different beetles. Without some kind of glory, they would have gotten annoyed and given up already. Yeah. Well, it's even more than 16,000. I'm pretty sure it's something like there are like 400 or 500 distinct species of beetle across the globe. That's crazy. And everybody's like, oh, crabs are the ultimate life form. Apparently not. Apparently things are turning into beetles more than they are crabs.
Look out, Shadow.
Shadow the crab hog. I think part of the reason why beetles are so prevalent in nature especially is because of just they're tough, you know, they're built with really thick shells in comparison to a lot of other arthropods, uh and they adapt really quickly to their environments, and so they're able to just get into a niche and stick with a niche. I'm not gonna lie, the way that you drew this fog feels so cozy. Like, I kind of wish I was getting hugged by this fog right now. It's really nice. Like,
This is those Genesis moments. This is that. If I had to jump to one, it's the burning bush scene from Prince of Egypt.
ooh. I can see it. I can see it. Oh, man. Prince of Egypt, like, changed my brain chemistry when I first saw it, man. I'd never seen anything, like, animated like that ever before in my life, and I've seldom seen it animated, anything animated like that since. Ah, So you have a question, Perp. Could you break down how you did the glow effect in the center?
For the little thing, for the egg or for the clouds, because there's two different clouds.
I believe he's talking about the egg, the crushed egg.
That one is set on a. So I have a layer that is at reduced opacity. That is the base, and then above it is a layer that's set to glow dodge. Gives it a little bit of character, a little bit of fun characteristic volume and play with the purple.
It is a lovely effect.
Yeah. Write that down, write that down! I think, certainly not that Colony is unique in this aspect, but I love the use of neon in Colony artwork. Like it always feels very ethereal whenever we get to use neon as a glowing effect or whatever it is. Like we have so much beautiful color in our art pieces, and it feels so inviting in such unique ways. Being nice to look at is a massive boon to its appeal. Yes, I agree. Couldn't do that without you guys. I think that was for me like the thing that really pushed me to want to work on Colony more, was that the stuff that I was writing was inspiring amazing artwork from artist friends that I massively respected their work from. Like I was already a fan of your work, Perp, and Matt's from the projects that we were working on before. And so seeing the way that you guys began interpreting that art, like the stuff that I was writing and manifesting it into visualization, really pushed me to think, oh, I like this, I want to keep doing this then. Like, this is exciting. I get to see my imagination come to life because it inspires other people's imagination, and that's a wonderful thing. We should keep doing that.
I don't know how to take positive affirmation, so I will just say Colony really was the friends we made along the way.
It was. I think if anything else, Colony being a way for me to be creative with my friends is like probably the highlight of what Colony is to me. And yes, it gets stressful doing... In particular, it gets stressful doing the game stuff, because I'm not exactly a game dev, but... all of the other aspects, being able to create music and create storytelling and work on artwork and just getting to build a world with my buddies has been exceptionally rewarding.
I love the way you're doing those wisps of cloud.
Mm-hmm. Excuse me. No, I keep talking about other creators' work in this stream, but remember years ago, Rubber Ross released a video talking about the the thing that he was most disappointed about with what's it called with Skyward Sword. Now, one of the things that he was really hoping for that was kind of like almost a letdown promise from the teaser trailer was that there would be like big fluffy clouds in the sky. And he said that that was like the thing that he feels could have actually made flying in the sky in Skyloft an actually enjoyable experience, was if there were clouds to like fly through and give you more give you a better sense of like your location and your speed throughout the sky. It was an interesting observation that sometimes those little small things can really help you connect better with the gameplay elements at hand.
Yeah, I feel like having flying segments without any clouds is kind of like having swimming or sailing segments with absolutely no waves.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I'll come back to that comment in a second because I'll read Caleb's comment. There was a card game called Dragonborn that never really took off. The high fantasy art was really good, but not unique enough to capture an audience. Unique design motifs like vivid colors and neon definitely makes your cards look hella interesting. On store shelves, the average consumer is using the Unga Bunga brain, and being visually interesting is how you win an audience. Perp and the gang are winning that battle. I agree. Dragonborn. That sounds familiar. I'll have to look that up. I feel like I remember talking to somebody about that recently at one of the card shops that I frequent. So, you were talking about waves in like a sailing game. I can't remember what the game was called. It came out a few years ago. It was kind of like I don't want to say that it was necessarily trying to ride off of the success of Breath of the Wild, but it certainly it looks like it took inspiration from the graphical aspects of Breath of the Wild, but it was a game that was about loosely based off of Polynesian and other, South Sea Island, like culture, not necessarily culture, but aesthetics wrapped into like loose fantasy mythology kind of a thing. And there was a lot of like you had to build your own canoe basically, and a lot of the elements around getting your around your survival, because it was kind of like a crafting survival kind of a thing. You'd collect materials, you'd get new upgrades for tools, and then everything was kind of feeding into you getting a better canoe and getting better sails and stuff. And it was a bit too much into the simulation, where like the way that you pitched your sail really, really mattered. But if you were in just the wrong position, then it would be such a pain to get anywhere across the map. And it took me sometimes in early game upwards of like 20 to 25 minutes to battle against both waves and wind to get to a location that was relatively not too far away on the map. And it was very frustrating. And then the thing that did me in on ever finishing that game was that there were certain animations that you couldn't break out of once you started them, even accidentally. And so I got killed by an enemy because I was trapped in an animation cycle for accidentally interacting with material on the map because some of the buttons were getting conflated with each other, and it was just very big cluster mess of game design on that one, and it bothered me to no end, to the point where I just gave it up entirely. I was like, I'm not playing this game anymore.
Yeah, it sounds like it maybe wasn't play tested as thoroughly as it should have been.
Yeah. Or if it was, that the feedback wasn't responded to well enough.
Yeah, or they didn't have time to fix it.
Yeah. I'm not sure. And game development is hard. I'm not gonna sit here and say that it was entirely the dev's fault that all that went down or anything, but it was too rough of a game for me to appreciate the good parts about it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, is this the egg being buried right now, Perp?
Yeah.
Aha, I see. Oh, this isn't gonna be card art, Calum. This is gonna be this is art assets for the Song of Origins video. Oh, you're alright, no worries. Oh, how's the gang tonight? Here we've been productive. It's been productive. last night we got into a call to discuss planning for the Song of Origins, editing and stuff like that, and I apparently I just accidentally repeated a bunch of stuff that I had already said like a month ago and had apparently forgotten. So I'm going senile, but that's all right.
Yeah, you were struggling a little bit last night.
Yeah, my I I'm just trying to catch up on brain activity. It feels like.
Yeah. Well, it's why I have things written down. It's now that I have some kind of extraordinary memory. I just take a lot of notes.
Yeah, yeah, and that's good because I forget to write a lot of stuff down. I'm kind of at a
I never
point
learned how to
actually.
read.
What's up? My name is Jared. I'm 19. I never learned how to read. um, I've actually gotten to this point of like I forget so much of what I talk about in lore meetings and stuff like that that I'm thinking of like um, getting Craigbot on the server so we can like record it in audio, and then seeing about like getting a uh, what I can't remember what those what that technology is called where it like auto detects the speech and then transcribes it.
Text to
Um,
speech.
like a text to speech transcriber, trying to just get everything into text form so that way when I do like have those long soliloquies of lore exposition, we can just get it in some kind of a text format, even if we have to edit it later on. Like just something basic like that would help me, I feel like.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, right. Speech to text.
Speech to text, gotcha. Obsessed with bugs so much you've gained their memory recall limit. Yeah. Feels like that some days. I am become the beetle. I've become the snail they I've become the snail that they learned how to erase memories with. Hey, plus side, you can record your notes like a researcher of the occult in a Cthulhu light. Yeah, that's true, I could.
You either die a beetle or live long enough to become an oasis.
You either die a beetle or live long enough to see yourself become the eagles. Or was it the wings? I can never remember what the band was that Paul started after the Beatles. I think it was Wings. Or worse, Aerosmith. Man. Like some Aerosmith songs. Some. I feel, Aerosmith is just one of those bands where it just gets overplayed to hell and back. Especially in the 2000s. We got a lot of, like, teen movies that had a lot of Aerosmith in it for some reason.
Don't wanna close my eyes.
Don't Want to Miss a Thing, I think, is the one you're thinking of, Caleb. Which is, what Perp was just singing. There's also, well, let's see. I'm trying to, like, think of... I think that Aerosmith was played in... Do you guys remember that movie Zoom with Tim Allen?
No, but I was about to say, oh yeah, Don't Want to Miss a Thing from Homestuck. I know that song.
Oh no. Oh no. Saints Row 4 intro too. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy how permeated Aerosmith is. Um, man. I feel like that's just like been a trend since the 80s, and like licensed music being used in film was just so prevalent that even older stuff from what I guess what we now consider to be classic rock, just because of the age gap of the bands. The a lot of those classic rock groups from the 80s and now creeping into the 90s were like they were just still really hot music at that point in time. And of course, you know, Beatles music also never goes out of style. I don't know. Like, do you guys consider? I've heard this term used before that like 80s and 90s rock is now kind of considered dad rock. What are you guys' opinion on that?
Oh, I've heard the term. I don't really get it. Like, that's not a classification I would use.
Yeah.
I listen to too many genres, or I listen to too many musical things that, like, genre is just a series of words that I just don't have time for.
That's totally fair. I grew up listening to a lot of like older music in comparison to like my contemporaries growing up. Like my favorite artist growing up was Billy Joel, if that's any indication of like the stuff that I grew up on. Uh, you know, just road tripping with my dad or my mom, and they just, you know, they're older, they're in their 60s, so they grew up during the 50s and 60s, and so they're just, or they grew up in the 60s and 70s really is when they were growing up, but so I just had a lot of like stuff that was more prevalent to them in their age in my listening repertoire than kids that were born to parents who were maybe like 10 to 15 years later than my folks. So I always had a weird like musical disconnect to a lot of my peers. You know, it's also interesting like having parents who were into that kind of like at that point in time, like uh listening to instrumental music just, you know, was a huge norm. and and I mean that in terms of like classical stuff that was like getting at their during their time. It was traditional and classical music that was being recorded to vinyl for some of the first times, um, in like grand symphonies, and like properly recorded and expressed fully in the breadth that the music was meant to be presented in. And so for them to be able to listen to that kind of stuff was much more novel than it is in our day and age, and especially like growing up for me. But because they were into listening to that kind of stuff when I was young, I also listened to a lot of that. And it's interesting that carries over a lot. That if I find like a soundtrack or something that I really adhere to, I'll just kind of cling on to that and just listen to the soundtrack for days on end at a time.
I mean, that was a lot of the music that I listened to growing up, was just like movie soundtracks.
Mm-hmm. I find there's something very comforting about just listening to instrumental music. Caleb says, my childhood was this singular Foo Fighters CD we had in our van we'd have on repeat on road trips. Pretender burned into my brain. You know what? That's baller, though. Foo Fighters is goated. Hell yeah, dude. Does music play a role in Perp's or my creative process? I'm sure it does for Perp. Perp listens to a lot broader music than I do, even. And I'm the music. Well, Perp's a musician too. Like, I don't know what like. I know that you just said that you have a wide swath of music that you listen to, but what have you been listening to most recently, Perp?
I got introduced to a lot of like musical stuff through video game stuff or video game soundtracks. I, I'm a Sonic fan. I'm kind of exposed to a lot of different breadths of it. So a lot of it, there are a lot of wild people making music out in today's day and age. So I keep an ear to the indie scenes.
Very good. Very good. I guess to circle it back around to that question of like how do you feel that music plays a part in your creative process?
Hmm. I would say that it's a nice gate. It's music is a conversation between artist and listener, and engaging in more conversation lets me think about how I think about things.
Yeah, I would agree with that sentiment. Yeah. For my creative process, I think I certainly don't keep it a secret that in the creative process for colony music, I turn to a lot of soundtracks and uh, especially soundtracks that focus on uh, diegetic soundscapes for the soundtrack. Um, so I listen to a lot of like Daniel Pemberton and shoot, the guy who did Dune. My brain's escaping. Hans Zimmer. Um, they like. I feel like, for me personally, I really enjoy the way that they interpret the way that the world sounds and use that to express the musical aspect to the score. Um, it creates a much more immersive, grounded feel to what you're listening to, matching up with what's on screen, um, and I really enjoy that a lot because to me that's everything that I want to express in Colony is that these sounds that you're listening to are instruments from their world that is very ethereal and very alien. Yeah, yeah. Um, but I also grew up. I was a huge, like, massive fan of John Williams as well as a modern composer growing up, and so I grew up with a lot of motif work because of that. Just listening to how he develops themes and motifs in the music, especially character motifs. Uh, and so I take a lot of inspiration from that in the way that I write colony music as well is that I like to create themes and motifs around cultures and traditions and activities within these cultures, and so not necessarily around like the people just yet. I will eventually be getting into more character motif eventually, but for now it's much more focused on just being about the world and the overall atmosphere. When Colony is officially playable, will you and the team be streaming a campaign for it? Potentially. That is something I do want to do, but whether it's going to be in the works immediately after whenever we're able to launch is another question. But that is something that I would.
Admittedly, I think we're gonna have a lot going on around launch, but
Yeah.
maybe later in the future. Who knows?
Something I'd love to be able to do is to. I'd love to be able to, because when we launch, my hope is that we'll be able to launch the whole game with a campaign setting and campaign book ready to go with it. And that is something that's in the works. We have like a lot of outlines and plans for such things, but whether we ourselves will be able to stream playing it, very very up in the air. This is coming together so well, Perp. Man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's gonna be really cool to see in action.
Mm-hmm. Accidentally dropping the egg of eternal fog and despair. Oh, I wish this was an accident.
Hmm.
Talking about um, Sonic the Hedgehog music earlier. Um, I was just thinking of Dreams of an Absolution the other day. I love that song. That song's great.
Oh yeah.
There's an acoustic version that I listen to a lot. I think I've shown you that version before. Um, it's it's very chill and how do I describe it? Almost folksy, but in not really folksy, but like folk pop. Hard to explain. It's cool though. There, you know what? I'll drop a link for that in the in the Discord chat, just so everybody can enjoy there.
think Lee Brotherton, or I think Bentley Jones is working on a new cover of Dreams of an Absolution sometime this year.
That'll be cool. I've been I've been wondering if we're ever going to see if we're ever gonna see in the Sonic movies an adaptation of Sonic 06.
I think in terms of like the structure of this stuff, that might end up being their Infinity War, and that's kind of funny.
That would be pretty funny.
I think time travel was already thought about for like the concept of Sonic 3, so like time travel's on the table.
Fair enough. I just feel like, moving on to like Mephistus or whatever the guy's name is, to being a major Mephiles, yeah. If Mephiles was turned into like a really big bad evil guy, like the universe-ending evil guy, that would be like you say, like an Infinity War kind of a thing. Be kind of crazy.
Sonic 06 would be so expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alternatively, the other option for like an Infinity War would be taking Sonic and Detective Pikachu and finally giving us the Super Smash Bros. Universe. I mean, we got a Mario movie now too.
I don't remember which studio Detective Pikachu was under. Was it Paramount?
I don't remember. I can look this up easily. 1 second. Warner Brothers. And Legendary Entertainment. Wow.
There's going to be so many fun. That's going to be classic Marvel where they're dealing with all the rights distribution.
Right.
It'd probably be easier for them to make a Yakuza series inside of the Sonic the Hedgehog live action universe. And have it be a Sega crossover that it probably would do to do the Smash Brothers crossover.
Yeah, fair enough. One day when all the corporations are gone, we'll finally be able to make the Smash Brothers movie. Hot Crater Act 2 for Sonic Advance 2 goes unreasonably hard. Unfamiliar with that one, unfortunately.
I love Sonic Advance 2. You can't see anything.
Was Sonic Advance a Game Boy Advance game?
Yep.
Ah, gotcha.
And it's a game that's very heavily criticized for bottomless pit spam.
Ah, okay.
In a game where the camera just doesn't follow Sonic very well in the first place, from what I understand.
Ugh.
The Advance 2 introduced the camera kind of like shifting forward to let you see what's coming up, but also came with the whole deal of the boost. Like, it's technically the first game with a boost system where if you're running fast, when you're running straight for a long enough time, you kind of go into a boost mode, and as such, you're always going fast, and they like putting spikes everywhere.
Incredible.
It's kind of unfun, but there's a fan decompilation that's happening.
Oh, that's cool. We're getting another Sonic Advance 2 remake. Oh.
It's not that slanderous.
But speaking of another Metroid, what was it? Another Metroid 2 remake. Somebody's been working on something called Another Metroid 64, which is, I guess, taking some of the graphics that we saw from the prototype Metroid game that was supposed to release on the 64, and they're just like interpreting their own fan game out of it. I think that's what's going on. It's called Another Metroid 64. So if you and they just released like a gameplay trailer like a day or two ago, I want to say. Relatively recently.
I feel like with Nintendo, your fan game has to be, okay, I'm doing 2 public demos, like 12 months apart from each other, and then I'm going radio silent for the next 8 years, and I'm dropping the full thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only way you can get around Nintendo.
Yeah. Which is unfortunate. This was something sad that I heard. There was a guy who was developing Portal for the N64. He was like interpreting like building his own engine and everything from the ground up to build a Portal remake in for the N64 that would run on N64 hardware. And Valve had to come in and shut them down because they didn't want to upset Nintendo. It was because it had to do with the N64. Because normally they're cool with fan games, they don't care, but because it had to do with Nintendo.
It was something about the code the project was using, I believe, because I remember hearing about that. If I recall correctly, the developer behind that was trying to come up with a way that it could still be distributed without getting on Nintendo's nerves for including code that they didn't want to have out in the wild.
Gotcha. Okay. Man. It's frustrating.
Right, yeah, someone was out there making a really cool 64 homebrew and just...
It's always been frustrating to me because, like, there's a lot of things that I do respect Nintendo for. I think that as far as, like, treating like ensuring that their workers come first when like sales start dipping, and like making sure that the higher ups take the brunt of any sales losses that they experience. I really respect that. I respect the amount of uh, just polish and dedication that they have to trying to make the best gaming experiences that they can. But they're just not very consumer friendly overall. Like they just have a lot of really predatory practices, and it's frustrating. Nintendo really has hatred for that one dude who's making chips for the GameCube. A lot of games on that thing will be lost media in a couple of decades. Yeah, it really will be. And you know, it's a, it's. I feel like that's always been one of my other issues with Nintendo is that like they don't care about lost media because they you know, it allows them to be able, oh excuse me, to be able to artificially inflate prices to whatever they want it to be, including just, you know, the predatory practice of making you pay for a game that you've already bought 3 or 4 times across multiple systems. That's infuriating. Like,
Right. The fact that so many of their older games are only available as long as you pay them a subscription. Like,
yeah,
no standalone purchase option, even.
it's
Whoa, whoa, the bane of capitalism upon you.
yeah, for real. And it's like I've bought Ocarina of Time 3 times now. I don't want to have to pay a subscription service to play it on the newest console, especially when I bought it on my Wii U digitally.
Mm-hmm.
Why couldn't I have that available to me as something that I just own in my digital like account when the Switch came out? Like it just
I feel like this is probably the console generation where they're going to have to start retaining purchases from system to system.
yeah. Which they did confirm that like most of the digital games that you've purchased on your original Switch account will transfer over to your Switch 2.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good step in the right direction, but it still doesn't account for the fact that I've still bought a lot of Nintendo, like classic Nintendo games, several times digitally, and I still don't have access to them on my current console. And at this point, I don't even think that I'd be able to access them anymore, even on my Wii U, where I bought them. Or on my 3DS, where I've bought other digital games. And that's been like another reason why I'm such a heavy proponent for physical media. I just... If purchasing isn't ownership, then piracy isn't stealing. That's where I'm at this point. It's also like one of my frustrations that I have with Amazon that if a movie disappears out of their digital library, you will just lose that movie even if you bought it. Even if you paid, even if you paid like $20 to purchase a film digitally on their marketplace, if they remove it from the marketplace, it will get removed from like availability for you to watch outright flat.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Perhaps we were too harsh on Blockbuster.
Definitely. But that's the thing, is that, like, yeah, it shouldn't be leasing it should be leasing a license to watch something. It should be that thing now is just a part of my digital library. And if a company can revoke my ability to watch something that I've purchased that costs more than it does to rent it, then there should be no price difference between renting and purchasing. Because you are effectively creating the same problem just on a timed schedule.
Yeah.
I also believe that films shouldn't cost the price of what it would cost to buy them physically when you purchase them digitally. I think that paying like $15 to $20 for a copy of a movie digitally is outright a scam if it costs the same to purchase it in a physical format. I don't know. I've got a lot of beef with just digital distribution in general. It's also, yeah, it is killing cinema, which is a shame because, like, going to a movie theater is supporting a local establishment that supplies jobs to your local economy. And if you've it's and it just, like, and buying movies when they release and ignoring the theater and just watching them digitally upon release is robbing people of being able to, like, survive within an economy that system is directly responsible for crashing.
Admittedly, though, like, theater prices have gone up. Concessions have always been kind of overpriced, but tickets are also really expensive.
I agree. The part of that is because now because there are fewer people going to the theaters, they have to compensate. And I will also say this: the theater makes little to no money off of ticket sales. They make most of their money back with concessions. That's why concessions are so expensive. Jack's in the wrong VC.
I think he wanted to mute himself first. Hello, Jack.
Oh, hey, Jack. So the next time that, like, somebody complains about the tickets of sale the price of theater tickets, it's not the theaters themselves that are setting those prices. Those are prices set by the studios.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason why, like, cinema is surviving at this point is because of, like cheap seats, like, who are getting the secondhand reels, basically getting leased from the larger theaters, which is one of the other ways that the theaters are making money. If the studios don't need their film reels back, the bigger theaters will rent out effectively the reels to cheap seats for them to keep making money off of it, and then the cheap seats can stay open. But now cheap seats are going away because a lot of the time now we're getting films that are just they're, like you say, they're just becoming license-controlled digital files. Yeah, so cheap seats are going away because reels don't exist anymore. Again, physical media the removal of physical media is harming small economy. I remember an anecdote about the original, like the first Avengers movie when it came out. They filmed the very last, like the I think it was the mid credits shot where
The
they're all
shawarma scene.
the shawarma scene. They filmed that like 4 days before the movie went to theaters, and everybody got a last minute edit sent digitally to the theaters that had it included. The last major movie release that was actually on reel was Oppenheimer, and the IMAX reel maxed out the platters. Good. Well, I actually might suspect that that's not true. That it was Oppenheimer. I would suspect that there's a likelihood that a lot of it was what's it called, Dune Part Two. Because I saw Dune Part Two that was released on 70 millimeter, which is rare, by the way. Uh, you don't see 70 millimeter specifically very much anymore. Um, but that was how I saw Dune Part Two, and that was definitely on film. So my local cinema employs 18 people. Pre-COVID, it was 45. They had to pivot to the pseudo IMAX experience with the comfy seats to actually get people in the place. Oh yeah, like I know it. Cinemark brand theaters, they were doing that long before the like the COVID times. They called it XD, and it was like a midway point between normal theater experience and IMAX. But man, I haven't seen an IMAX movie since I was a kid. I don't think it's been a very long time. Ooh, the Alamo Drafthouse, yeah. The Alamo Drafthouse is also like it's like one of those experiences where you get food brought to you as well. Yeah, yeah. There's uh there's one similar to that in Tucson called the Roadhouse. Roadhouse is pretty good. Um Caleb and our and my friend Marissa, who comes in here every once in a while. The there was a theater that she took me to go see. Uh, what's it called? Godzilla -1. There was a re-release that it was in one of those theaters where they bring you food, and that was really nice. Um, I think that was for the 70th anniversary of Godzilla, I want to say. It was just last year. It was very, very fun. They had like a Q&A for the director and art director or producer, I can't remember. They were talking about how cool it was that they won an Oscar for it. um, oh, we have a comment in YouTube chat. I've got a question I've been meaning to ask for a while. How does the emotional range of a Sakuda compare to that of a human? It's a very, very, very good question. Um, it is, I would argue, the same kind of emotional range, but they might have different emotional reactions to just specific kinds of events from and most of that comes from a cultural standpoint where just the way that they view the world is significantly different from the way that a lot of Western culture and a lot of other world cultures view the world, and things like death or things like union and like larger life events, or even just down to things like disagreements and arguments, because of the way that they think about the significance of individuality. They don't get offended the same way or to the same degrees that somebody might over those kinds of disagreements. But I would say that fundamentally it is probably the same degree of range that they would have compared to a human, yeah.
I'm trying to make our bugs cry.
If they had tear ducts. It's always funny watching crabs with sand on their eyes, just with the window wiper claws just going back and forth and wiping off the sand. Do we have anything written for the funerary practices for Colony? Somewhere I do have something. It was a while back that I wrote something about some funerary practices that bees occasionally, depending on who passes away, they will have a small funerary arrangement where people will bring flowers or petals specifically. They don't eat the body. Do some species / tribes observe a body for a week? They yeah, there's probably some cases where they observe the body.
The Fora death ritual. Throw them into the pit.
Well, eventually everybody goes in the pit. That's true. They do have a slightly higher sensitivity to it, though. Cannibalism is probably not something that's often practiced. It would definitely depend on the tribe and the species, but they don't embalm, mostly because there'd be no reason to. Everything is on their insides is going to decay regardless, and they're chitin, like, and I think we went over this last week, I want to say, when we were doing art with Matt, that the view of death in Colony is like the outlook on the body itself after death is not necessarily as sacred a thing that we think of in Western culture, and so a lot of the time, like, the leftover chitin from an individual could be used for something else, and that's something that we see with the Terra, that the Terra keep the chitin off of the backs of the thoraxes of soldiers, because they've gotten scarred and from being cracked so many times that they become very thick and they're usable as like shields. Or the queens would of Apoy hives will have their stingers removed, and that stinger will be used as weaponry for the Queen's Guard. So, like, a lot of, like, there's just different views on how to deal with the dead, but ultimately everybody goes in the pit. Encasing the body in amber? Probably not. That would be a very... If you're trying to make a Jurassic Park reference here, that's no. That's not something that they do. That's not something they practice.
Yep. That might be a bit sacrilegious, given the whole Children of Amber kind of thing.
Yeah. Dang, Kyle perished, but look, I made this sweet sword out of his leg.
This one smells of death. Throw him down the hole.
I think that is probably actually something that the fact that they've developed language has kind of changed over time, is that if they, because if you get a death pheromone on you, you won't get mistaken for being dead because you can speak and you can be like, no, 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 I'm alive, I'm alive. It's like accidental pit chucking does not occur.
That's not as funny.
Thanks for the answer. I'm looking forward to the Colony RPG, and I'm the kind of player who really enjoys getting in the head of my characters. That's the kind of information I'm looking for. Absolutely. That's going to be... We're writing a world book so you can like really get into more of the culture and more of the like you said, get into the headspace of a character. That's definitely going to be something you'll be able to get, just more perspective and psyche in our when we come around to being able to release the world book. So pheromones work in tandem with language. Yes, they do. Yeah. I mean, pheromones are a part of their language as well, as if they are relaying like first-hand information or second-hand information that was relayed to them via pheromone. If they can emulate the pheromone, if they can emulate the memory, then they can pass along information like that. But you start to get into more of a territory of telephone, like playing a game of telephone, when you start getting into second-hand accounts. But yeah, the pheromones, if they're just relaying information that was a first-hand account given to them, then they can just relay it via pheromone. And it's very, very hard to lie with pheromones is the other thing. Is there a caste specifically for the people who handle the dead, and are they resigned to just being the people who smell like corpses? There is, actually. There are priests who are within each of the tribes that are meant to, like, their job is to handle the dead, especially in Fora tribes, like Perp reference, where they are the ones designated to go and chuck bodies into the pit, and they're kind of like marked with special pheromones, so everybody knows that these guys are kind of set apart for that job specifically.
Okay, I'm allowed to smell like this. It's part of the job.
Hi, stop putting me in the pit. You smell like this too. Yeah. Sounds like pheromones could be equated to body language, but on a much more potent level. Yeah, yeah. And I mean, like, so the way that pheromones work in Colony, that if you guys have seen our scientifically informed fantasy video, we briefly go over the way that pheromones kind of work is that they call them mamoku. Mamoku are pheromones that are very specifically attached to memories, and so when you release a mamoku while you're you can like imbue the scent of it, and like you can imbue memories within it, so that way when another Sakuta comes along and they inhale it, then they are also imbued with those memories. They are able to capture the memory through that. So Mamoku is like one of the like most poignant tools that they have at their arsenal to relay information, but spoken language is useful to them in as much as being able to communicate with species that maybe don't understand your Mamoku very well. So you can kind of think of Mamoku as having dialects across different species, and if you are unfamiliar with the nuances of a particular dialect, you won't understand what you're viewing as a memory. you may get the emotional response out of it, but you might not get the actual memory itself.
Memory, all alone in the moonlight.
I'm starting to get really cold. Let me bundle up a little bit.
Tis the season.
'Tis the season. And it's gonna be like still in the 50s up here, basically for the week. So I gotta move the space heater back into my room.
The pellet stove does not like me.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's been difficult trying to get that thing to stay on like during the nights and stuff, which is really fun when the outside can get to like the twos.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. Hasn't gotten quite that cold up here just yet, but it has gotten mighty cold. You said that it was tough but not impossible to lie through pheromones. That could be a cool adventure prompt. That is something that is potentially something that we're looking into for the campaign. Yeah. It is a very difficult thing to be able to lie with pheromones. You'd have to... ultimately, when it comes down to quote-unquote lies or untruths found within pheromones, it usually comes down to, like I said, like a game of telephone, where it is unreliably remembered during like the relay of the memory, or that there are details that are conflated with other memories that you might accidentally mix in with the one that you're imbuing into an immediate Momoku. And so the record keepers within the different tribes, their main job is to ensure that they have a clear and concise memory when they're keeping the records and upkeeping the Momoku, and making sure that as much of the truth that was passed down to them was expressed in its most raw form and most like original form that they're able to recall it in when they pass it down to future generations. Imagine having such a complex and nuanced language that translating it verbally causes it to lose its clarity. Yeah. Basically, that's... yeah.
Couldn't be us.
Couldn't be somebody with ADHD. Don't look at me. Could there be any leaders of Sakuta that aren't a queen? How much do the queens of the different Sakuta impact their colonies? I know Apoi queens have a much stronger presence than others. Yes. There depends on the type of Sakuta. It even depends on the type of tribe. So, like, for Apoi Malif, the queens are definitely much more of an impact in their hives. But for the Osim, which are analogous to carpenter bees, they're more like solitary bees, or where they live in pairing couples instead of larger queen units. So even between tribes, you see different forms of leadership, and like with the Osim, they don't really have leaders amongst them. They're more like communes where everybody makes decisions together. In other tribes such as the Manta, which are the praying mantises, they don't have queens. They have monastery masters because they live in monasteries, and so they do have forms of hierarchy amongst them for leadership, and they're not based off of queens at all. Same goes for the Ro and the Het. The Ro kind of elect their leader, via various displays of magical proficiency and expressions of wisdom through testing. And the same goes for the Manta, where there's a particular group of elders and counselors that will come together and decide who amongst them would become a new leader if the current one should fall. And likewise, they elect new ones from their general populace to become some of them. And it's all based off of spirituality and skill within the art. The Het are much more about power and about relinquishing positions to greater power or greater wisdom or greater intuitions and depths of knowledge. So there's a lot more back and forth and power plays that occur in Het society. But yeah, that's there definitely are leaders of Sakuda that aren't queens. Meerkat, you've talked about some powerful and esoteric magic some species use. On the flip side, do you have an example of some mundane magic that generally assists with their lives? Well, they view the Momoku as a form of magic that's bestowed upon them by the Asatari. So yes, that's one way that you could kind of imagine that the Momoku is one of those forms of mundane magic. Although, there's this blend of biology that kind of mixes in with all that. But they do view it as a form of magic. I think that some of the more subtle, mundane forms of magic that you might find within Colony are more like within their religious practices and the way that they view spirituality, that when they give offerings to their gods, that there's this general feeling of blessings and spiritual and deetic invocation given to them because of their offerings. And it's a lot more subtle, and it's in those small unseen things, kind of the mystery of how God moves, kind of in that analog of ideas. You give offerings to Zhao, and he would bring you rains, and the rains may come anyway without the offering, but they make the offerings anyway. Small gestures like that, which is actually one of the things that I like a lot about Lord of the Rings, in that a lot of the magic that characters like Gandalf follows are a lot more esoteric and a lot more subdued and soft on the rules that are applied to them, and the magical effects that, like, the way that the magic is presented is a lot more subtle as well, and it's not nearly as spectacle as much as it is just forces of nature working the way that they are meant to. Which, in strange ways, if you think about it, Gandalf himself, within the context of Lord of the Rings, is just one of those forces of nature that is his function as an individual.
Oh boy, he's bringing in the red.
Uh-oh. What if it was red? Has there been any characters you're fond of that have influenced characters in Colony? Certainly, well, it's funny that Jack immediately below that says brings up Bilbo. I think both Bilbo and Frodo, as characters within their own stories, respectively, are uh, definitely ones that I take inspiration from, especially in the context of Colony. This aspect of it is the small people within the world who choose to stand up to great evils. So it's the collective acts of small individuals and the good that small individuals perpetuate every day that staves off evil. So you have to, as small individuals ourselves, we have to ensure that we are keeping up in ensuring that we are doing good every day to fight off evil as best we can. So I think that that's part of the inspiration for how I want to tell stories within the world of Colony. That the characters that I'm telling are in a very, very literal sense very small individuals, small people that are faced with great evil and adversity, and that they have to continually keep themselves in check and continually be acting toward good to ensure that they are capable of overcoming great evil. As for other characters, what was Gollum a homewrecker? I'm not answering that question. As for other characters that have inspired me in my writing, traditional hero archetypes are definitely something, but like flawed hero archetypes are much more interesting to me, and redemption arcs especially are very compelling. Prince Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender especially is like, I think of him as going through an antithesis of a hero's journey, where he had all of the best intentions originally, and but he was corrupted to a degree where he had to rediscover what it was that he actually cared about, and who he was. Like, who it's the thing that Uncle Iroh says is, "Who are you, and what are you gonna do? What do you want to do with your life?" And I think that Zuko's story is definitely something that has inspired some of the characters that I'm developing in Colony for sure. Reluctant heroes, obviously. Um, Again, back to Lord of the Rings, Aragorn is, at least the way that he's portrayed in the films, is a great example of a reluctant hero. Or going back to Avatar, that's exactly what Aang is he is a reluctant hero. He doesn't want the responsibility or the power. He's a kid, and regardless of what he wants, he has a responsibility to save the world because of who he was born as. And there are degrees of sacrifice that, regardless of your position that you were born into, you have responsibilities toward your fellow beings that you yourself are uniquely and only you yourself are uniquely capable of achieving those things. Other examples are like the downtrodden characters that are like that have abandoned all hope, and they have turned to nihilism as a coping mechanism. And I think that that nihilism drives them to do things only because it is something to do, or and perhaps there is a part of them somewhere in there that they desire to redeem themselves out of that nihilism, but perhaps they also fear that it could also be their undoing. Or and so like there's a lot of reasons to have nihilism, and pushing through nihilism even in the midst of you still being nihilistic is an important thing to like. I think there was a great video essay, and I can't remember who it was by off the top of my head, but they were talking about how cinema has moved in recent years from being meta commentary in like the modern zeitgeist of cinema. Like we went through between like the 90s, like late 90s to late 2000s, we went through this era of meta commentary where it was exceptionally nihilistic, but it was nihilistic to a point of destruction, and not necessarily wanting to fix things, just saying that you have to accept that things are the way that they are, and that form of nihilism is destructive, and that there is this new wave of commentary within film that he calls what is it? He called it like the meta post modern, which is a look at it's meta commentary with an outlook on the nihilistic facts of like these are the way things are currently, but it twists it to say but it's not how they have to be. And it's more like revolutionary material that is being expressed out of the nihilism of saying you can change things no matter who you are. And so that kind of nihilism is more along the lines of what I'm trying to push for, is this idea of like hopeful nihilism. Things are the way they are, but they don't have to be the way they are. You can change things. And it's very interesting, like especially like looking at films that I really adore, that especially with things, we talked about Dune earlier. Paul Atreides is kind of an outlook of that idea of nihilism, that you can change things, but you also have to be careful of how you change things. And I think that was brilliant on Frank Herbert's part of saying that there is hope, but putting your hope into charismatic leadership can only get you so far before it becomes regime and fascism. I don't know. There's a lot of characters that I take inspiration from, that I incorporate ideas from into my work for sure. Paul, the Emperor is trying to put us in an impossible situation on Arrakis. We need to prove that we can handle it so we can make things worse. Exactly. Reject Grimdark, embrace Noblebright. Well, I think Grimdark as a setting does not define the story as a genre, if that makes sense. You can have stories that are about hopeful nihilism without within settings that are about dark nihilism, that are about depravity and darkness. And circling back around to the way that Matt calls Colony whimsical grimdark, just because I like using that word. So you're working on the Sorasol now, Perp.
Yeah, trying to give them a look that makes sense for this without spoiling their look in Act 3, since that's mad stuff.
Gotcha.
Trying to remember what colors I gave them. And by proxy, what colors Matt gave them.
Don't exactly recall all of them off the top of my head. So where does Sonic the Hedgehog fit into the Colony universe? I'll tell you where it fits. Right up your ass! Get out of here with that stupid question.
Stream. You quit that.
Sorry.
I've self-censored so much.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry about that. Jack just gets the worst out of me.
The moral of the story is you never see where the rest of the bee folk are in the main canon.
Dude. What's the name of the bee guy from from the Sonic universe? I can't even remember the group that he's a part of. What's his name?
Charmy Bee of Team Chaotix.
Team Chaotix, that's it, yeah. Charmy the Bee. Man.
He had a best friend who suffered an overdose of LSD.
What?
Archie Sonic got weird, man.
That's crazy.
Yeah, just look up Mellow the Bee, Archie Sonic.
Oh no. Alright, I'm Googling this. on on the Archie Sonic fandom wiki, history saying goodbye, tragic death. Oh, man.
It went places. I don't know if those places were good, but it went them.
Man, Sonic fans are crazy, man. It's just Sonic everything is crazy. While at the park, Mello ate one of the chili dogs loaded with the secret sauce that downtown Ebony Hare and Renfield were using on the food. The sauce contained an addictive element to get people to buy more, but it could be dangerous in large quantities, and Renfield was being irresponsible with its use. So, it wasn't LSD. This guy died from, like, a heroin overdose. Like...
Yeah, no, it's remembering that this comic ran just buck wild from 93, 92, I think, to 2019 just puts into perspective this thing. I feel
Incredible. Incredible.
because this was like height dare.
Opioid usage in my Sonic cartoons. Wow. Wait, is that not a reference to that guy who was lacing his noodle shop meals with opium so he could get more repeat customers? So that is a big possibility.
What year did that news story break out?
Let me see. Noodle shop. Opium. Noodle shop owner opium.
Yeah, no, it's a unknowingly overdose on an addiction-causing drug known as lemon sundrop dandelion. It's literally LSD.
Wow. But dandelions are a flower, and so are poppies. Oh my god. That story looks like it came out in 2014. Was that opium story? I can't believe he was inspired by Sonic the Hedgehog.
Can't believe real life is just a Sonic the Hedgehog reference waiting to happen.
For real. Man. Why would Sonic do this? Oh. Oh, are you looking for references for the Soda Sol perp? Perp?
I keep forgetting I'm on push to talk. Yeah, my phone's not showing me the preview image of what I'm trying to look at.
Here, just a moment. I have a thing I'm putting together.
Yeah.
While you were discussing your Sonic LSD story.
It's a good story. It's just wild that it's a part of Sonic.
Yeah.
There you go, Perp.
If everyone's hooked on the dope noodles, he gets more glizzies. That's wild.
I'm looking for the other one, the one that I did.
Oh, the one that
In
you
front
did.
of
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that one is kind of a similar style, so I'm trying to like continuity.
Ah.
Yes. One moment. Okay, I think everyone is in this shot, but I could be wrong.
If I drew it correctly, it should be.
Well, I was being lazy and grabbing it off the time lapse, so.
Ah.
I love the concept of this divine, unknowable beast that's actually a cow with the personality of a Labrador. Cows are sweet. I have had that thought of like create like the early Soda Sol definitely have more defined personalities, but they're not, the Soda Sol are not the same generation after generation, and so they would change over time. There's a lot to uh, look at and work at with the Soda Sol, especially in the contemporary age of storytelling, where it's been hundreds of thousands of years that this has been going on, and the Soda Sol are very, very, very different. Maybe not hundreds of thousands, maybe tens of thousands, but still. Generationally, it is the separation of time has significantly changed them. Root beer and chili dogs. Me at Costco. Man, I wish Costco had chili dogs. That would be amazing, actually. A sick burger place. Whoa.
Oh, yeah, the burgers were huge.
That looks huge, dang. Half-pound patties on fresh-baked buns. That's awesome. I've been just jonesing for an Oklahoma onion burger recently, to be honest. Ooh, they make their own chili in the place. Ooh. And poutine. Ooh, brother. Delicious. Melt. Melt gourmet cheeseburgers. Very nice. I mean, Five Guys is really expensive, yeah. That tracks. Well, Caleb, when you come over here and visit, we'll be sure to give you a heart attack on day one. Take him to a Texas Roadhouse. The only thing worth getting at a Texas Roadhouse anymore is the cinnamon honey butter. Let's be real. Everything else is pretty mid at Texas Roadhouse. If I'm gonna get a steak, I'm cooking it myself. And if I'm gonna do burgers, I want to do that myself too anyway. Like, a Mission Barbecue? We don't have a Mission Barbecue out here. Where can I get a rack of ribs like the ones from Flintstones? I'm trying to think of where we could go for tomahawk ribeyes, but I really don't remember. I don't know any places out here, at least. I could just slaughter the cow. I could just butcher a cow. Like a bloody hibachi, that would be brutal. That's literally a scene out of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, too. The sentient cows coming around table to table talking about what cuts of meat they've been working on lately. Roast beast. The Grinch himself. The ants looking up to see a divine beast be turned into a ribeye. That's crazy.
They're the Beatles when I turn their patron deity into a pair of moccasins.
Dude, imagine being an ant and stumbling into a world that is cold and made of metal and bleeding meat. So you're just describing an ant walking into a butcher, is what you're describing. Yes, but like, I don't know, man. What if it were you? What if you was the ant? I mean, let's be real. If I was a literal ant, let's not think of it as like a phora, like not a cicuda. If I was a literal ant and I saw that, I'd just be like, okay, I guess this is easy to walk on. Smooth surfaces, and the meat's just out in the open. It's dinner time. That's probably what I would think. Would you love me if I were an ant? I, if I was an ant, you'd give me to the house centipede. I appreciate it. The horrors of being an ant would be too much for me, and I'd seek death as soon as possible. Oh no. Oh no. Please don't. Please don't send him after me. I only just escaped him. I don't know if I could handle having to deal with him again.
Let's not bring that here.
Yeah, I'm not going to.
At the very least, let's not bring this in here on stream.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll vent about that later. Caleb doesn't know the context. He will know the context later.
yeah. Moving on. How many sour salt do you think you're going to be able to fit into this one, Perp?
Ah, I got distracted by McDonald's lore. Uh, I probably, I probably could get them all if I wanted to. Is that something that we want to do?
Um, I don't know that they all have to be in there. Because I want to say the previous scene has like 4? Is that right? Or
Looks like 3 to me.
mm,
I think putting
unless
3 in there
it's
would be fine.
yeah. Unless it's a situation like where some of them are stuck together.
Which is a possibility.
Mm.
Artist interpretation. Leave that up to you.
Vaguest amalgamations, vaguest things. These things aren't supposed to be born, so the only thing that they've got to cling to for for reality is each other.
Yeah.
Man, I fuck it. I, I love Junji Ito.
Yeah, exactly.
That being said, it is. We have reached the 2 hour mark and more at this
And
point.
more.
Uh,
And how are you feeling right now?
Probably could walk. Could use a bit of a walk around. My legs are tired from
Okay.
sitting.
Do you want to do the walk around and then come back, or do you just want to call it for the day?
Might call it for the day.
Okay.
I
Sounds
want
good.
to want to open up clip files that haven't been shown on stream, and it was like,
Oh, gotcha,
I
gotcha.
don't want to spoil stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough.
That's fine.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Perp, for all of the work that you've done today. Thank you, everybody, for coming out and hanging out with us and asking questions. And we'll see you next week. And y'all have a great one.